Hi, hey Elliot. So cool. Thank you so much for taking time to speaking with me. I have come across your work, I think like 1.5 years ago, and about a year ago, I saw that you were in Bali too, and I called you up for a session. And yeah, I'm super interested in getting to know a bit more about your path, about your work, about the work that you are doing or building at the moment as well. My path is somewhat similar, that I've been living a yogi life for quite a while and going into body work then and did a lot of one-on-ones. And from there, the energy work came in. So, super interested in how everything developed for you and yeah, everything you want to share.
Yo, thank you for the invitation. Um, it's a long story. I probably shouldn't go back to when I was born, but I'm sure all of our past and our experiences and what we go through our life is at least it's shaping me and preparing me for what comes. So now when I look back over my past, I I think I had my first kind of awakening when I was 16, 17 years old, living in a criminal environment, taking a lot of drugs. And it was like borderline psychosis because I thought everybody was telepathic, they were all talking to each other, and I was kind of below this bar, and kind of elements of paranoia and things would come up. Anyway, I kind of got off drugs, lived in a Buddhist eco village for a while, studied spirituality, taught meditation. And then something similar happened in my 20s. And then something similar happened in my 30s. And when I got to my 30s, I realized, this isn't a psychosis. This is actually the truth. This is reality. This is how it all works. And where I think people are very aware and they're telepathic, actually, there's this higher level of intelligence, like our higher self, where we're all communicating, we're all figuring out the matrix and how to shape reality. Um, and as I started to realize how crazy I am or how crazy I'm not, then life just started to make more sense. So at that time of my life, I'd left the eco village, kind of left the spiritual community to find my spirituality. I did a Vipassana, then I just wanted to be in silence. So I went to India to study tantric yoga. I got to the ashram. The guru was a pervert. I got my money back. I went to study Ashtanga yoga, Ayurvedic medicine. Went to did some Muay Thai in Thailand. And then when I got back to England, it felt like all of the 6 years of living in this community started to make sense. Like those founding principles were work is love in action, co-creation with nature, inner listening. We'd meditate every day. We would make our decisions based on fact, but also attunement and meditation and tuning into the nature spirits and what wants to happen to this piece of land. So those things really kept me grounded, in trying to live in the mainstream world, mainstream society. And I realized all of those 6 years, I'm very grateful for them. I,
Yeah.
I think I didn't really heal. I was avoiding my trauma. I was running away from it a lot. And as I started to work with breathwork practices, tantric practices, I was doing yoga 4 times a week, going to the gym a lot, running every day. I went vegan, I went raw for a while. My vibration in my body started to change. But that change in my body of becoming more aware and becoming more sensitive and understanding things that used to leave me very confused, it actually just woke up all my shadow, all of my trauma. I became more angry. I was horny all of the time. I'm trying to live a very clean life, raw, plant-based, vegan, giving up alcohol and smoking and all of these things. But the addictions, the desire, the rage was always increasing. And then I picked up a book about Kundalini, And then I read, as that awakening process starts to happen, you're clearing out your chakra system. So what's in your lower chakras, desire for power, money, or sexuality, or fear, all these things come up and become incredibly amplified. So that was one big piece on my journey of like, oh, this is what's happening. And in kind of between those moments, I found this guy who was giving energetic bodywork sessions, and people were going into asanas and mudras, and this was naturally happening to my body. So I would kind of lay down in these, let's say, angry, violent states, and then my body would start to do all of these things. I had to stop going to yoga classes. This is in maybe 2016, because at the end in Shavasana, I would kind of lay there and my body would start, and the teachers are coming up. Are you okay? So I had to actually reduce the amount that I went out. So I went to their course. It was actually a tantric massage course for a weekend. And I asked you, can you teach me this? And they said, no, we can only teach you yoga. This is just something that happens. You have to figure it out. It's just yoga. Then I still trying to, just to come to terms with who I am, my desires, what's going on in my body. I found this woman called the Tantric Shaman, Elaine Young, and she was very, very helpful in teaching me how to work with my body, de-armouring. Well, she called it lingam shiatsu, to start to get the trauma from childhood, from the past, just from life, really, out of the body. And then as I started to do that work, that was another kind of raise in my consciousness. So going vegan, going plant-based, that tantra course, working with Elaine, discovering de-armouring, kind of body work. These were all sort of liberating moments that were putting me onto this path. Tantra had kind of always been there. I picked up my first book when I was 18 and started practicing with my girlfriend, more of a neo tantra, but would, through my 20s, just devolve into unconscious drunken sex and one night stands, and then try to, this isn't right, and just 20-year-old man. And yeah, that kind of put me onto this path. But I think one of the biggest realizations, or the biggest moments when something just flipped in my consciousness, was I was trying to forgive everyone from my past. I was trying really hard to forgive. And then the moment I just decided, you know what, I can't forgive you. I just can't forgive this. Then like everything just dropped. There was just complete liberation. I surrendered to that I can't do it. And then suddenly I just felt forgiveness and bliss and started to see colors in places, and didn't really sleep very much for, like, I was having to work a lot at the same time. So there was lots of like little pieces. There was no one teacher or one school that I went to. I had a session. I went to weekend workshops. I only ever did level one because I didn't have a lot of money. And then I wanted to do a breathwork course. It was like 15,000 euros, and that was kind of impossible. So I just used to lay on the floor and look at the ceiling and then count my breaths and then understand what would happen to my body. And I would look on Wikipedia and study the nervous system and then see how does that relate to my body, and kind of started to create this system of understanding breath and understanding pranayama and the little bits of knowledge that I could get from people teaching de-armouring, shiatsu. I did a weekend workshop with Andrew Barnes once I had kind of already started practicing, and a more in-depth tantric massage course at Dow Gardens with somebody who works with Mantak Chia. Unfortunately, a lot of the people I trained with, or the schools later, the sex scandals and a lot of negativity around them. So I don't always advertise that the people I worked with, but it's a complicated world, and I just kind of took bits of information from where I could. And yeah, I hope this interview is in the direction that it wants to be
Absolutely.
going. So from working with Elaine, she invited me to assist in, it was called an energetic orgasm weekend. So you just kind of lay down and learn to give people energetic orgasms. So I did that. I assisted with her, and then we created. Uh, so once a month, every Sunday, we would meet up, kind of 4 to maybe 6, sometimes 8 people, and we just exchange. We'd drink cacao, eat nice food, and just learn to give each other energetic orgasms and yeah, and body work. And then I started to combine this with tantra and the tantric massage that I was learning. At the time, I was a plumber, so I didn't want to leave the eco-village movement completely. I got a little tired with emotional decision making, consensus. I was kind of burnt out from community living. So I thought I would set up a renewable energy company, maybe work in refugee camps, water purification, solar, great ideas. Then my company kind of went bust, and I just ended up fitting people's bathrooms and fixing taps. And so my friends would call me the tantric plumber because I could fix your taps and come around to your house, and we'd exchange things. So I started to move out of being a self-employed man with a van, just doing work into this work. And over time, it just turned into my main income. And then I got invited to work in Zurich. And then I had clients, their clients would refer friends. So many people helped me. Like, there's no way I did this alone. Life's this person taught you something, this person invited you here, this person gave you a therapy place, this person. So there's this immense amounts of yeah, of gratitude for all of the influences in my life that created this work. So then long story short, I found myself living in Zurich for about 5 years. And I had a therapy practice that was pretty full. I would see sometimes 3 sessions a day, 6 days a week, and had a lot of energy at that time. And I was just on fire with inspiration. And then I channeled a book about non-dual psychology, masculine feminine polarity work, and that book was developed from working with clients. Everything that I would learn from being a therapist was creating the book, which was running the sessions, and the practice itself of breath work, de-armouring, shadow work, tantra, non-dual psychology, and how really I can't see a difference between tantra, kundalini, and non-dualism. For me, it's all the same thing. We're just looking at it from a different perspective, and when we put it together, it's this highest form of tantra. So that became my practice. And then more people wanted to learn. And then I moved from being a therapist into teaching, and then found myself traveling the world, running great workshops. So, Kundalini Bodywork's not huge in that sense of some of these other Kundalini activation practices, which are purely surrender based. What we do is very different. It's a complete holistic therapy practice. It's not saying that this is Kundalini energy, this is a Kundalini activation. Most of the time, it's chi, it's prana, it's emotion, it's sexual energy, it's the relationship between your nervous system and how we start to heal the body and heal the nervous system and change the programming of the mind and clear the chakras out on this emotional level. And this gets the body to a place where it's more aligned for such an experience to happen. So when I think of what is Kundalini, what is energy, is this for me, it's just that process of polarized forces, masculine, feminine, light, dark, whatever it is, coming into the body, coming into separation, which is what we are. And then it's this journey of coming back into unity and up to a greater sense of unity. It's not total unity with God. And then the vibration changes. And the more times we can go on this journey of separation, coming into unity, for me, that is the essence of what we do. And it has so many names. We can call it Christ consciousness, we can call it Kundalini energy or Hieros Gamos template, Viking mythology, the rainbow bridge of how Odin and Freya come together and this magical world opens up to the 9 different astral spiritual worlds of Asgard. I'm sure Native Americans, every culture has some understanding of what this is, but Hinduism is, I find it's very defined in a way that we can understand. I should maybe just let you speak, or I can carry on.
No, you're great. But I would like to ask you a question now. Um, so nadis, chakras, all is are very vague kind of terms for people who are not super familiar with this kind of world or work or whatever. Why is it though important that we, or that you believe it is important that we work with the physical body at the same time? What has the physical reality to do with the energetic reality?
So what we teach in our trainings, we have a level 1 and a level 2. And the level 1 is focused much more on the emotional world and the physical body. And everything that happens in our reality, the energetic world, is a subtler level. So everything is going to grow into the energy, always precedes matter. It creates its shape, it creates its form. It's how reality is created, how we manifest things. So when we work with the body first, we're specifically learning to work with emotional energy. And a lot of the times we'll look at the similarities between Taoism and Hinduism. This is the model that we teach, and also Wilhelm Reich in that kind of
I
somatic
didn't know.
therapy work, bands of the body. So if every organ and every gland actually has a consciousness to it, we all know our mind is where most of consciousness is. And when we change our breathing, we can start to bring consciousness into different organs and glands of the body. And then we experience reality differently. In modern day thinking, our stomach is explained as our second brain system because the brain, which is mostly the sympathetic nervous system, is communicating to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest functions. So when we believe that we're a separate entity, you're separate to me, and my mind is in control of the situation, it thinks it's always a top-down process. Something happens, a signal goes to the brain says, okay, you're hungry, I'll make you feel hungry, digest your food, it's time to clean your bladder out, whatever that is. But when we realize that empathy is a real thing, if you walk into a room and somebody's sad, you know they're sad. So once we train the mind to understand that sometimes the energetic, electrical information that's coming into the body is not coming from the mind. It's not coming top down, it's coming bottom up because you're starting to feel other people's emotions. And this becomes incredibly confusing until the brain upgrades and says, I'm not a separate person. This is like Wi-Fi. So this means that emotional information is coming into the organs and glands, and then that's translated up our nervous system on a kind of an etheric level. Thus, I know how somebody else feels, but I still translate their feeling through what I know in my body. So the first level is making the organs and the glands healthy. And what I find, Taoism doesn't have energetic centers like Hinduism does. It just works with elements in organs and glands. Hinduism works with the chakra system, but pretty much these things align perfectly. Like Mama points, Hinduism, acupuncture is traditional Chinese medicine, which is kind of Taoism. So these systems marry up very, very well. Now, if we're able to clean the old emotions, the fear, the desires from our lower chakras, and we make everything healthy and balanced, which is what we're doing in Kundalini Bodywork sessions. We learn it's more of a tantric kind of way of working with energy. Once the organs and glands are healthy, then this idea of chakra systems and nadis opens us up to another level of information, which isn't emotion. Emotion is it's all an illusion, but emotion is a huge illusion because it's not real. It's just how you feel in the moment. But our illusion is our reality. It's what's giving us joy. So when we go into an astral dimension of being, it's coming in the same way. It's coming into the auric field into the chakra system, into the organs and glands, then that information is coming into the spine and it's changing how the mind works. So what we do in level one is help the brain understand it's not separate, that empathy is real. Then we start to heal the body on an emotional level. We have a lot of practices to change the actual vibration of your body. So what you're projecting out into the world, the more happiness in your body, the more happiness you experience in the world. Once we work with that place to make the emotions happy, then in my mind, it's much safer, although an astral world of spiritual development is dangerous, is to start to open ourselves up to information in the astral, to higher intelligence. And then we're still, each chakra system has a different vibration, a different frequency. And then as this information is coming into the body, it's upgrading our consciousness, potentially our DNA. So if you don't do the body work, then the nervous system can't take these upgrades. So in our trainings, how the videos look and what we actually do are kind of the opposite, because we're continuously strengthening the nervous system. We're doing pranayama in the morning. We're doing breath holds once we've healed the emotion. We're not doing like long breath holds when there's trauma. We're learning to transform trauma in the field, not to rise Kundalini when there's pain and trauma in your body. This is actually dangerous. We're learning to strengthen and expand the nervous system so it can hold more energy. We're teaching the body how to be more sensitive, how to feel more pleasure, but still be very strong. And then spirituality becomes attainable in this sense. And we also have to realize it's another level of illusion. But by this point, we should be wise enough to not believe our illusion, because then it's a delusion. We go crazy. But to be able to kind of sit back, observe, be the witness, enjoy it, and start to let it change and unfold without such attachment to what is right, what is true, what is correct, what's good, what's bad. When we can kind of let go of that and move beyond those judgments, take away this idea of good and bad, and we can accept everything that is, that means things get good. So it's a paradox. When you feel like nothing's good and nothing's bad, I'm sorry, some things are definitely bad, wrong, shouldn't happen, use your free will, fight them. But if you're unable to accept things, then you're always going to be in a fight and your life's never going to be good. So you have to break the mind. You have to start to understand life is a paradox. And what we're teaching in this work is the work is about polarity, working tantrically, working multidimensionally, and understanding that life's a paradox. And how do we dance within that paradox? So we bring that into a framework of, without really defining what universal law is, because it's a mystery. We live in a mystery school, our body's a mystery school. And for universal law to work, it has to be a mystery. It can't ever really be defined. So the Hermetic principles are great. There's 7 universal laws. Somebody else will tell you that there's 12. So we just allow language and emotion, which are naturally enemies, to find a way to work and dance together. And if we look at the base of universal law, for me, it just comes down to magnetism, polarity, and duality. Everything's in there. Vibration, attraction, masculine, feminine, law of attraction, power of the mind, free will, surrender. All of these concepts that are allowing to shape our life all come back to magnetism, polarity, and duality. So we're constantly looking for these trinities, because whenever we can find 3 contradicting truths that work together, then time is always moving forward. Reality is always changing, but we can always hold on to these truths, which are not really true because they're changing. But if we make the foundation of what we build our practice on has very little dogma. This is magnetism, magnets work. This is polarity, or you're a woman, I'm a man. Non-duality is the dissolution of that. So this idea of a higher tantra is built into the fundamental process of the practice. So in every practice, we look for which universal laws do I want to become the embodiment of? Because as I train my body to have no resistance, no attachment, but also to feel pleasure, then that's what happens into my life. So by using physical de-armouring techniques, which work with pain as well as pleasure to heal the nervous system.
Can you explain a bit more in detail how does the armoring work? What is it?
Yes, it's a metaphor.
Hmm.
A lot of people have created different practices around de-armouring. So de-armouring is a metaphor that we all wear armor. So we protect our heart. Something bad happens to us. I don't want to be heartbroken again. I don't want to get angry again. I create a block between my lower chakras. If I was bit by a dog, I'm naturally scared of dogs. Or if I was hit by a bus, every time a bus comes past, my body comes into a state of fight because the body is trained to protect you. So all of this information comes into our nervous system. Now, what we work with is emotional de-armouring. We're learning to find emotions in the body, to take them out of the body, to transform them, which heals the nervous system, which changes the kind of the synapses, how the electricity moves down the spine between different nerves and the neurological pathways in the brain, as well as the information in the tissues, which is mostly in the organs and glands. So when we're emotionally de-armoring, we're not taking away our strength. I'm not taking away my ability to get out the way of a bus or to rock climb. So when you're emotionally de-armoring, you're not weakening the body. But you can also do physical de-armoring, which is good when you have physical pain, when you have scar tissue, if you've got cysts in your ovaries, if your sinuses are blocked, if you're getting, I know, gut ulcers in your gums and these kind of things, then we would do actual physical de-armoring, which goes a little bit deeper into the body. And this process, I can't really explain it in the call, but how we work with the nervous system relaxes the nervous system so that we can actually change the physical pain. And that means more blood is flowing to the physical area, tensions on that area, energies on that area. Blood flows, the nervous system, the old cells die down, the new cells come, and now the pattern of fear, of physical pain, or of brokenheartedness is no longer in your nervous system. You can often recreate these things with your mind because your mind will just put it back. So whenever we de-armor and we work, it's not just as simple as, okay, so I do this breath, I press here, I give myself a massage. Okay, that's healed. You still have to work with the stories in your mind, which is what we use non-dual psychology for, and the emotion that you put back in. So there's a level of something you have to be cautious of. Imagine you go to a breathwork practice and everybody lays in a room and they do this, this simple form of holotropic breathing. You overactivate the parasympathetic nervous system because that's the rest and digest system of the body. More blood flows to this area because there's more oxygen, there's more carbon dioxide, everything's flowing. As you relax this area, when the rest and digest system is overactivated, that forces your emotions to come up. So then you're able to express the negativity, to let go and to release and throw everything away. Now that can be very positive if afterwards you have nice experiences because you need to put energy back in. You can't just take it out. Something has to come back in and replace it. So if you then go and have dinner with friends, you dance, you drink something nice, you see your family, you stroke a dog, great, your life's getting better. If you do that session and you go back to your lonely apartment with damp and you've got no money and you just have a horrible life, then actually that's probably made it worse because you've let go of a lot of negativity, but now you're just putting even worse negativity into the body. So when we release in breath work or when we release in de-armoring, we also have to be very conscious of what we're putting back in. Because if we're not conscious of what we're putting back in, our environment will do it for us. So what we're learning in the de-armouring practice, which is why it's very intention based, is we're learning to become the embodiment of the universal laws we need. And in one way, these are cities that allow us to be a more compassionate person, a more forgiving person, joyful, more accepting. We start to work with the mind, forms of hypnosis. So as that energy the energy is released, it transforms. And then we have practices to bring the energy back in. So in that sense, the work is tantric, because a tantric path is allowing you to live in the illusion, live in separation, while knowing that you're not separate. A little bit like a bodhisattva, but not really as compact, nowhere near a bodhisattva. But you're starting to wake up in the illusion so that you can shape and transform the illusion. Where the essence of Kundalini is to take all of the energy, all of the chi, all of the prana out your body, bring it to your third eye, burn all your karma away to escape samadhi, to never be born again, not to live in this illusion. So in that sense, if you only have a Kundalini practice, your body becomes weak, you lose weight, you lose muscle, the physical energy is literally being transmutated and then sublimated into the third eye to fuel the spiritual experience. Energy in this sense doesn't come from anywhere. So when we're surrendering, when we're going through these practices, we have to have the energy or the karma to burn. So we start to deplete the body. Whereas if we work tantrically at the same time, then we're actually bringing more energy into the body, working with the illusion, working with more emotion, working with the astral dimensions, more information, bringing more and more energy into the body. So it's always Tantra and Kundalini, unless you're looking for samadhi and you just want to distinguish your soul. And I don't know, that's where I am in my personal development journey. I don't know if I want to distinguish my soul. I'm not sure if I want to be born again or not. I kind of sit. And then when I feel like I'm becoming too pure, or I don't have enough darkness, then I kind of lose my power. Then I will purposely just dive into my shadow and do crazy things for the human experience, because I feel like I don't know if I want to distinguish my soul. I know that's egotistical, but it's just the reality of sometimes what drives me back into my lower chakras, back into I want to be angry, I want to be sexual, I want to have money, I would like material things, I want to have a positive impact, I want to help people. That's all my ego. And I'm still attached to my ego. And I'm trying to make it a healthy ego and still realizing that's not traditional spirituality. Traditional spirituality is just to get out of here and let everybody else rot in hell. Anyway, I know I'm not right in this moment. I know this is where my spiritual development is kind of topping out.
I think it's super interesting. It's something that I speak about with lots of people and my teachers these days. Again, I'm having discussions with one of my tantric teacher um, about, well, he said something very interesting. I wrote it down. He said there's a saying, it's in the old scriptures, and he says, the one who want to rescue the world are very dangerous people. And because it comes from the ego, right? So yeah, it's a super interesting question. But what I find personally is most important is that we actually anchor in this reality that we are experiencing right here, which means anchoring in the body first. And this is where the danger lies a lot in these practices, or people working with this energy, that they are often dissociating. And this is where they go into psychosis, and this is where it gets really dangerous. But as long as we work with people and bring them back into the body, teaching them their body is a safe space, or letting their body teach it to them, this is where my personal work mainly lies, and this is what I think where nothing can go wrong, right? Because in the end, we should experience the whole range of emotions, and we should experience all in this lifetime, or be able to experience all. And my traumatic childhood prevented me from living in my body as well. And the moment I started practicing yoga and getting back into my body is where I could find the whole emotional range in experiencing love, bliss, and joy. And I think, yeah. So my personal
It's
opinion is this is the most important part.
as you're talking, I'm thinking of the 8 limbs of yoga. So when you start to study yoga, they're teaching you how to be a decent human being alongside asana, because in that sense, yoga is giving you power. And if you're not able to channel that power into, yeah, into your spiritual development, I don't want to say it's satanic, but I find a lot of people's the modern application of Tantra manifestation, working with Kundalini, I can have whatever I want, manifest a big car, and because I can do a lot of yoga and I have this power, if you're not actually trying to make the world a better place and planting trees and paying people a fair wage and investing into the future that you want, it is kind of satanic. Um, So when we talk about developing cities in our trainings, it's just coming back to compassion, forgiveness, patience, acceptance, because these things are good for everybody. But I don't feel like I know what's right for everybody. We're all completely different, and we all need different things. And often we need these darker experiences. We need to experience selfish people and angry people in order to learn our lessons. One of the reasons that I left the community that I lived in for 6 years was realizing that I couldn't change politics. I wanted to make politics integrative and maybe change the economy in my naive 20s, and then I had this experience and I realized that everybody has their karma. Time isn't linear, it's multidimensional. People here to experience things and play out, and you can't really change it on that mass level because energetic patterns are so strong and so defined, and energy just wants to repeat itself. And that was the moment I decided to go and do a Vipassana and think, okay, I'm not going into politics and NGOs, and this just isn't, it's never going to work. And to do something else with my life. So anybody I work with, I just acknowledge we all have different astrology. Planets are affecting us differently. I know my Cancer is in Mars, and when I understand that as a person, that makes that warlike energy to be caring and trying to take care of people, and I will make you love yourself. And that's the shadow of having my Cancer in Mars. But that doesn't mean everybody should be like that. That's just me. And it's learning to integrate those parts of my personality that allow me to be the best version of myself in this development, or maybe I'm eventually ready to let go, while I also give other people the freedom to be who they are and really appreciate that. I don't want everybody to be the same as me. So when we're teaching therapists, we teach a mythology, which is just the most simplest thing in the world, but simple things are very hard to understand and they have a lot of depth. So most of the training is just going deeper and deeper into these concepts so that you understand yourself. So everybody has a completely different understanding of the training because they have a different understanding of themselves. But we're also able to accept people to a higher degree. So in the way, this our work is getting a terrible reputation, and I think in many ways, rightly so, because it is abused and there's a lack of understanding and there's a lack of integration and embodiment and doing it for the right reasons. And I don't want to sit here and say that's a bad thing because it creates the chaos, which creates the new level of order. But I also don't want to sit there and just be apathetic and say, oh, well, everybody's just living out their karma. So I acknowledge that everyone's living out their karma, and I acknowledge my role to play in that is sometimes to oppose, to be angry, to be in conflict, to say that's not right, to offer a reflection, because that's how we grow. But I'm that arrogant and self-righteous, but I'm not so arrogant to say that I know better. I just know what I'm supposed to express. I don't know what the end result of that is. And the more I trust my body, the clearer that expression gets. And now the conflict in my personal life is very tiny. It's all kind of faded away. The vibrational universe that I show up in is a really beautiful one. Whereas when I was younger and in my teens, it was a violent one. It was an unsafe one. You know, everyone was burgling houses, stealing cars, selling drugs, taking overdoses, going into prostitution, fighting in the streets. Just wasn't a safe place. But as I changed my reality, I I vibrate in a different world. And I notice those moments that I connect with people of a different consciousness, and I can feel that in this matrix, in this reality that we all live, suddenly all the people in the reality change. There's arguments in the street. There's just a different vibration to it because I've somehow just walked into somebody else's matrix and reality for a little while until I come back into my own. And I feel like that's essential if we're going to lift human consciousness, because I can't just live in my reality and bring it up because I'm connected to everyone and everything else. And there's almost a detrimental aspect in that of how polarity works. When we're in a negative sense of polarity, this is happy, the more happy you are, the more sad you are. This is not the truth, but it's definitely a truth.
Mm.
So, for what the way I understand integration and embodiment is embodying a truth until it's really true. And then that polarity of I need to have the negative doesn't exist anymore. And then polarity is just I need sunlight and I need nighttime. There's a man and there's a woman. So we make all the polarities healthy as we integrate them. And if we all do that as humanity, humanity's collective consciousness will rise. But if we continue to go into like, well, I'm happy right now, so I'll enjoy it. Life doesn't last long. Fuck the world's just never going to evolve because you're actually making the darkness stronger. If you're in resistance to other people's behavior, and you know, these debates get really, really hot when you think of genocide, racism, rape, child, you know, accepting very, very dark negative things. But the answer has to be the same. And yeah, it just takes us to incredibly difficult places that I don't think many people will struggle to deal with looking at universal law on those intense levels, but everybody can benefit from working with polarity, masculine, feminine energy in their body, healing their emotions, raising their vibration, and then these very difficult topics become easier. I hope I'm making sense. They become easier to integrate, and then humanity can evolve. And I've kind of let go of this. I know I'm not going to save the world. I've let go of the idea that humanity will be saved in my lifetime or will live in this like utopia where everybody's happy. You know, there's a lot of darkness and pain in the world, and it's just popped me into a place. Well, if very conscious people that can most of the time come from compassion and love are only 5% of the population, it's even more important that you spread that compassion and love, even though you know it's never going to happen in your lifetime. You're not going to live in utopia. You're not going to live in a peaceful world where everybody loves each other. It might even get darker, but that instead of being a painful thought is now the fuel to love even harder, to be even more compassionate. Because if that 5% goes out or that 10% goes out and it becomes longer, then maybe it's not 5,000 years until humanity figures out how to create utopia. Maybe it's 10,000 years. And that's still, it's all one consciousness.
Not easy topics. For me, I have been studying and working in humanitarian fields for most of my 20s. I have been working with the victims of human trafficking. I had my own NGO working with minor refugees and went into burnout after burnout because I could not do as much as I wanted to do. And I would not be able to ever to ever fulfill what I wanted to fulfill in this world. And at the same time, it made me go very numb and energy less. And when I was being emotional, I was mostly being frustrated, or I was being angry at the system, at everything around me, until it reached a point where I said, okay, so this is not helpful either. Because what happens is I'm lashing out on my loved ones. I'm being a horrible person to take for my family because there is so much frustration in me. And this is what really flipped the switch for me. And seeing now that, and this is where self-care comes in, especially working in with other people, working in the field, working with energy. Self-care, I believe, is the most important thing that we can do for ourselves and others in this way to make sure that what we vibrate from us and how we indirectly influence our field or our community or the world in the end is from a good place, from a healthy place.
Yeah, yeah, and that's amazing. I'm glad you did all of those things and how you measure success, how the mind, or at least how I would measure my success is this end result. And I like to have achievable end results, but it's the process. It's the process of doing those things, of showing up, of looking into people's eyes, and they see that, oh, people really care and they actually want to help. And the thing that helps me do that is realizing that I am the eyes that I'm looking into. And when you have those non-dual experiences and you can't deny it anymore, you just can't believe in your sense of separation, then there's got to be something seriously wrong with your brain if you want to continually stay in this selfish place, because that's the consciousness that you are. And what I'm finding at the moment, as this work becomes very popular, it becomes very competitive. And there's a lot of ego in that sense. And, at the same time, we all need to make money, to find clients, to have courses. And there's a beautiful level of supply and demand that the more people who are doing this work, the more people who are interested in it. But sometimes that can feel a little bit out of balance because so many people want to get out of the matrix or the rat race, and the joy of helping people is very fulfilling. And I'm incredibly lucky in my role. Like, we were one of the first schools to start doing this work kind of in 2017, so it's a bit more established. And as I see the students that have gone through our trainings, in most of them we've kept good relationships. Not all of them. So there's a woman in the Netherlands who just did our level 1 and 2 training. Lovely woman, just starts calling it the same work, and then everybody thinks that's our training. And then that dynamic in me, I really have to look at: am I trying to own this? Is this mine? I'm trying to put my ego and my identity on it. And that conversation wasn't very easy. But then I have other friends who set up their own school. I think you're going to talk to Simon today, and maybe Jatem, who have set up the Temple Code, so they still assist on my trainings. In that sense, it grows together. I think Colleen Grady, who does Kundalini Arts, used to be my PA. There's been so many people who have gone through our school and training, and we don't try to brand them in that sense. It's like, take this work, make it your own, grow into something, and here are those fundamental principles. But at the same time, and this is my world, in how I do that, if I don't align myself to abundance, to actually helping other people to thrive and grow, and make sure that the retreat centers that I'm supporting, the food that we're eating, the local people that we're helping, that everything isn't growing in this state of abundance, then I completely lose my integrity. And I feel super lucky that I have a school and an online course, and now we've bought some land in Bali and we're building a training center for other people to come. And I also acknowledge there's a lot of underlying scarcity and competitiveness and jealousy that sort of some can distort the work that we're doing. And that's where my own personal development, when I look at where do I still need to heal, when one of my students is really successful, then is that, where do I have compersion and I really want them to succeed? Where do I have jealousy? Where do I fall into scarcity? And to say, yes, I'm just going to heal myself vibrationally, it's all going to be okay, isn't really enough, because money is real. We all need a place to live. The matrix is real, fifth dimensional consciousness, that we can create this high vibrational reality, but we have to do that in a grounded way. In the same way that we have to integrate that information into our body, we have to be spending our money, making our choices in a way that's also in alignment to abundance. And we're really trying to reflect that with having the practitioner directory, with supporting other people to do the trainings, having a place to share, to exchange with each other, to create mini holidays together where they all practice. We were on Mallorca once. We did like an 8-week training where we would bring clients in for a donation, and then new therapists would just be able to work and practice on them, and I'm kind of there to support and mentor as we go. So we're just trying to build people in trust that if the work has integrity to it and it's built on strong foundations and it's alignment with abundance and it's alignment with universal law, things are going to get better. I don't know if this is the conversation we were supposed to be having. I'll just generally talk about what's going on in my life. And
Which is great.
these things really going on in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for me, I just I'm just so glad I came to the point where I don't see money as anything bad anymore. And it took me a long, long, long time. Um, and I had to purge a lot of emotions around that as well. And now I do believe it's beautiful if we can create a healthy balance of having our own stable feeling, kind of secure life, whereas we also are aware that there is scarcity out there in people that we actually want to help, and how we can give both. Give an offer for people who want to work a bit deeper with us, and maybe also where is our contribution that is not based on any monetary exchange. And I do believe we have the awareness to do that in our own measures, and that is really beautiful.
Mhm. And it's one of these very triggering topics. You think spirituality, how it used to be, well, it was never for money. It was always for enlightenment. And it comes back to this the way I see it, it comes back to this monastic path. It's just trying to renounce the whole world. But if we want to live in a state of purity and we want to be this spiritual being that's trying to dissolve all of their karma, then I don't think we can have money, because money is karma. Money is a way of living in this reality of exchanging, as is eating meat, having sex, basically doing anything but sitting in silence and meditating is going to create new karma. And most of us aren't ready. I'm not ready to just sit for the rest of my life and meditate. So I really circulate around this place of burning my karma, creating more positive karma, but learning how to integrate that and align myself to this astral world. So in that in my way of seeing the world, a tantric form of spirituality is a very different path to a monastic form of spirituality. So in a tantric form of spirituality, there are deities and goddesses and energies, and you worship them to become them, to have their powers, or to become more psychic. It's always becoming more. And that's what a tantric path of spirituality will do for you, and why it's had a bad reputation in India for a long time. It's been related to black magic and misunderstood because people will do negative things with that, but that doesn't mean that it has to be negative. And it's, it's the same paradox over and over again of burning my karma away to create positive karma, and then how I integrate those emotions in my body. If I can integrate that positive karma so that I transcend this idea of good and bad, but light and dark are balanced and equal, that there's no resistance to my darkness, to the pain, to the money. I think this is how we create heaven on earth. I think this is how we build a reality or a matrix, which is this kind of fifth dimensional place that you could just keep bringing your consciousness into the past and reliving your life and turning into other people. Because if humanity doesn't make it as a species, consciousness, time in that sense isn't linear. We're always repeating the same patterns, repeating the same time. And if we can really understand universal law and really align ourselves with polarity and burn negative karma to create positive karma, but realize positive and negative doesn't exist and light and dark is supposed to be balanced, we can create heaven on earth. We can create this fifth dimensional reality that our higher self wants, consciousness wants to come into the body, experience non-separation, and experience God. But if we don't do the integration, I think we create hell. And we're in some ways we're kind of close to doing that. And that gives me motivation when I wake up in the morning to keep just to this incredibly simple way of working with paradoxes, working with trinities, understanding that everything's energy. I don't know if you blinked, you're not frozen. That's good. Um, so between this monastic path and this tantric path, money definitely has to be part of who we are. But there, I still see there's a problem in society that we have to change, because we need more consciousness in the way we do everything, not just in the way we give therapy and spirituality and do yoga, because as soon as you become conscious, you want to go and do these things. But you also need consciousness in how you cook food and how you clean, and how do you have a heightened state of awareness and a heightened state of consciousness and still do your emails and pay your taxes or fetch wood, carry water. That learning to ground, just to really ground this information in. And then the whole of reality is reflected from what's in our bodies. So that still feels like my purpose in life. It feels like it's always been it's been my purpose ever since I decided I didn't want to go into politics. And Kundalini Bodywork as a vessel, non-dual psychology as a vessel, the center that we're building, working with permaculture, building bamboo ecological places, making electricity, paying people a fair wage, plant-based living, they're all vessels to express consciousness, to express art, to express love in action, in how we move through time. I can sit and trip quite often, and I think quite deeply. So if I think of Christianity and God and Satan, but then I think of astrology and how, well, Satan is Saturn and Saturn governs time, and we live in time, so time is our Lord, but we make him bad because and then I'd start to it helps me dissolve this idea of good and bad. Like astrology is a really great tool for dissolving these attachments to good and bad, and trying to understand maybe what demons and Satanism or Kundalini and dark forces and all these things that are trying to teach us something. And we have a lot of dogma in society, which means we miss the truth and we miss the bliss and we miss the joy. And in my life, in my reality, I just feel a strong mission, a strong purpose, a strong sense of will to change the illusion, to shape reality, not to surrender to it, not to be in flow, not to just say, oh, it's all meant to be. Everybody's living out their karma. And maybe that's the sin, because I just know I'm going to change that. No, I don't want to accept that. That should be different. And then to impose our will into reality. And as you said, maybe that's a dangerous thing to do. And maybe it's not. And I totally understand what your teacher has said, and I respect it. And then it comes back to I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
But I feel the more conscious I can be about trying to change reality, not accepting things the way that they are, not accepting genocide. And yeah, I feel like it's important to use our free will. It's important not to surrender. And it's important to know when to surrender and what we're surrendering to.
I believe as long as we create the space for everything that we do, create the space within first and foremost, to ask ourselves of where the motivation is coming from. We're doing a whole lot already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I contemplated a lot on this idea of do we have free will or not? And the best place I've come to is the string theory and quantum entanglement in quantum physics, because I think I have free will. Sure, I do. But quantum physics would tell us that every probable reality, every probable outcome has already happened. So, in that sense, if every single probable reality exists, then you have no free will because it's already happened. But what you do have is the discernment and the free will to choose which reality you're aligning with, to choose how the string theory and quantum entanglement is your experience of it. So if
Mm.
I, so in that, we really do have free will, and some things are meant to happen, and we can totally change that. We can devolve the human race. We can go extinct. And that's what makes life so valuable and precious. If we thought there was no risk, there was no danger, oh, I just relax and do nothing. But when you realize the human race can fail, extinction is possible, a nuclear bomb might go off, life is so fragile and precious that to me gives me such a better relationship with my free will, with mission, with purpose, and learning how surrender ties into that, but it isn't the whole truth.
Yeah. We'll never know. Maybe. Thank you so much, Elliot. It was great speaking with you. Such deep insights on into your internal world, especially what philosophies you're playing with, what you, yeah, where you're standing in your own reflection. And on this work, of course, is there anything that you would like to share with us that your vision is, where you would want to go with all of that?
Well, in that sense of free will, I have a mission and a purpose, and I'm listening, but I'm also open to it changing. And it's easy to find out. I'm trying to make 90% of psychiatrists unemployed, change the mainstream health system, create a beautiful, compassionate world. Um, yeah, so I'm just going to kind of stick to what I'm doing of training therapists to work with Kundalini Bodywork. I'm very happy when people have done a Kundalini activation training and they don't really have the right information. I'm super happy when they come to our trainings and kind of things fall into place and they start to work in a more responsible way. A lot of I had just a lot of messages who people having very negative experiences with spontaneous awakenings from plant medicine circles, breathwork circles, Kundalini activation places where they're literally being attacked by negative energies. They've now got ME, their motivation is gone, they're starting to get Kundalini syndrome, they can't control their arms, their libido is gone, their sexuality, they've fallen into a depression, they're going on to an edge of a psychosis. And Kundalini bodywork, in that sense, is really a way to heal from these early risings, or somebody who didn't really know what they were doing when they worked on you, especially in group sessions. So one of the things that Kundalini bodywork brings to this world is just a more responsible way of working with this energy and a way to heal from negative experiences. And then we support people to find their own expression of spirituality. It's not a lineage. I'm not a guru. There's very little dogma in the training. We just come back to the essence of the work, working with universal law, self-reflection, deeper understandings of tantra, everything we've been talking about. um and I guess I'm just going to carry on doing that.
That's amazing. I love
Well,
that.
thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much.
much for the invitation. I don't know, it's probably like 28 degrees here. I feel like I could wring my shirt out. I'm just dripping in sweat.
Yeah, it's hot here. I have the AC on. Um, thank you so much for this and for your work. And yeah, I'm very glad that you do exist in this field and that you do bring this seriousness and this interconnection into this kind of work because yeah, I do believe that those only 5 days trainings are mostly not enough to really understand the essence of how how deep this work really goes. And yeah, and as you say, lots of people are experiencing Kundalini syndrome, are experiencing all kind of symptoms these days. These numbers are rising and rising. A lot of them are reaching out to me too. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this conversation.